You are already late. You know it before you even look at the clock. Your coffee is still warm, but you drink it too quickly. Your shoes are barely tied before you are moving toward the door. You check your phone while walking. You answer a message at a red light. You eat lunch while thinking about dinner. Then you finally sit down at night, exhausted, and somehow feel like you have accomplished nothing. How did an entire day become a race? You were not running toward one specific destination. You were simply trying to stay ahead of everything. There is a strange assumption hidden inside modern life. Faster must be better. If you finish first, you are successful. If you answer immediately, you are responsible. If your schedule is full, you must be productive. If you slow down, you are falling behind. But what if the opposite is sometimes true? What if rushing through your life is making it harder to actually experience it? In Japan, there is a word that offers an interesting way to think about this: yutori. It can mean room, leeway, margin, or spaciousness. But emotionally, it describes something more subtle. It is having enough space in your life that everything does not feel like an emergency. A few extra minutes, a little breathing room, enough mental space to notice what is happening instead of immediately reacting to it. And that idea feels almost foreign in a culture where every empty minute can be filled. You wake up and check notifications. You commute while consuming information. You work while answering messages. You eat while watching something. You relax while scrolling. Even rest becomes something you have to schedule between responsibilities. Where is the space? Where is the margin? The World Health Organization identifies time pressure, long working hours, lack of control, and poor work organization as important risk factors for occupational stress, burnout, and fatigue. And the WHO defines burnout as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. The problem is not simply that you are busy. The problem is that your entire nervous system can begin to live as though everything needs to happen now. You rush through breakfast, rush through work, rush through conversations, rush through weekends, and eventually, even moments that are supposed to feel peaceful become uncomfortable because your mind is still moving. Maybe the goal is not to become slower at everything. Maybe the goal is to stop treating everything as urgent. That is where yutori becomes powerful. It asks you to create space before life forces you to create it. Look at two different mornings. In the first, your alarm rings and your hand immediately reaches for your phone. You see 3 notifications, then 5. You check the time. You calculate how quickly you can get ready. You skip breakfast or eat while standing. You leave the house already thinking about the first thing that could go wrong. In the second morning, you wake up with 10 minutes of margin. You sit for a moment, you drink water, you look outside. You get ready without racing the clock. Nothing dramatic happens. You simply begin the day without immediately chasing it. Which person do you think arrives at work with more mental space? You may say the second person. But the strange thing is that you probably already know this. You just don't practice it, because modern life rewards urgency. Messages are marked unread. Emails wait for responses. Meetings start at exact times. Delivery apps show countdowns. Notifications create little alarms inside your pocket. You are constantly being reminded that something is waiting for you. And if you respond quickly enough, you feel useful. But what happens when every request becomes equally important? Nothing can remain important. Everything becomes urgent. The WHO specifically identifies time pressure and lack of control over work tasks as risk factors for occupational stress, burnout, and fatigue. And in its guidance on mental health at work, the WHO emphasizes that working conditions and work organization matter, not simply individual resilience. That distinction matters, because sometimes you are not failing at relaxation. Your environment is demanding too much. You cannot solve an overloaded workplace by simply telling yourself to calm down. But there are still places where you can create small amounts of margin. This is where the Japanese idea becomes interesting. Yutori is not simply do everything slowly. It is closer to having room around what you do. Think about Japanese architecture. Empty space can make a room feel larger. Think about music. Silence gives sound its shape. Think about conversation. A pause gives words time to land. Your life works the same way. Without margin, everything collides. One task ends, and another begins immediately. One thought is replaced before you finish processing it. One conversation ends and you reach for your phone. There is no transition, no breathing room, and that creates a strange paradox. Sometimes slowing down does not make your life less productive. It makes your actions more deliberate. You stop wasting energy switching between everything at once. You stop creating unnecessary urgency. You stop carrying yesterday's unfinished emotions into today's tasks. And suddenly, something simple becomes visible. You are not only tired from doing too much, you are tired from constantly changing direction. Think about how often you interrupt yourself. You start writing an email. A notification appears. You check it. You return to the email. Another thought appears. You search for something. You open another tab. You return again. The task itself may not be difficult. The constant switching is what makes it feel heavy. A slower life does not necessarily mean fewer responsibilities. It can mean fewer unnecessary transitions, fewer moments where your attention is pulled away before it finishes what it started. That is the quiet strength of Yutori. It gives your attention somewhere to rest. You may recognize the feeling. You arrive somewhere 5 minutes early, and instead of simply waiting, you immediately reach for your phone. You are standing in line, and you scroll. You are in an elevator, and you check messages. Your food is cooking, and you watch something. You are sitting on a train, and you fill the silence with audio. What would happen if you stopped filling every gap? Would you feel peaceful? Or would you feel strangely restless? That question matters, because if every pause makes you uncomfortable, you may have trained your brain to expect constant stimulation. And when stimulation stops, you interpret the absence as boredom. But boredom is not always a problem. Sometimes it is the first layer of quiet. Beneath it, you may find thoughts you have not had time to hear, a decision you have been avoiding, an emotion you have been suppressing, a creative idea that never had enough silence to appear. A simple realization that would have taken you 10 seconds if you were not constantly distracted. This is why Yutori is more than a scheduling trick. It is a way of creating psychological room. You are not trying to escape your responsibilities. You are creating enough space to experience them properly. And the evidence around breaks supports part of this idea. The World Health Organization recommends regular breaks, reasonable working time, and flexible schedules as part of reducing work strain in its occupational health guidance. Long working hours are also associated with serious health risks. A joint WHO and International Labor Organization analysis estimated that working 55 or more hours per week was associated with a higher risk of ischemic heart disease and stroke compared with working 35 to 40 hours per week. The point is not that every busy person is harming themselves. The point is that more working time is not automatically better. There are limits. Your body has limits. Your attention has limits. Your ability to make good decisions has limits. And yet you often behave as if your capacity is infinite. You squeeze another task into the gap. You answer one more message before bed. You take work into dinner. You turn Saturday into a catch-up day. Then you wonder why Monday feels heavy before it even begins. The deeper paradox is this. When you remove all the empty space from your life, you don't necessarily gain more life. You may simply lose the ability to feel it. You stop noticing meals. You stop noticing weather. You stop noticing conversations. You stop noticing your own body. You move through places without really being there. You arrive home but remain mentally at work. You sit beside someone you love while thinking about something else. And then one day you realize something painful. You have been present for your entire life, but absent from much of it. That is why slowing down matters. Not because speed is always bad. Speed is useful. Emergencies need speed. Deadlines sometimes require speed. Efficiency can be valuable. The problem is living at emergency speed when there is no emergency. You begin treating ordinary life like a crisis. The coffee must be finished now. The email must be answered now. The message must be opened now. The next task must begin now. But who decided everything needs to happen immediately? What if you allowed 5 extra minutes? What if you walked instead of rushing? What if you ate without looking at a screen? What if you let a conversation have silence? What if you stopped measuring the value of a day by how much you managed to fit inside it? This is the reframe. A slower life is not a smaller life. It is a life with enough space for you to actually notice it. I still catch myself rushing. You finish one thing and immediately search for the next. You sit down and feel guilty for sitting. You take a break and start thinking about whether the break is productive. You try to relax while mentally calculating everything you should be doing. It is strange. You can become so accustomed to pressure that calm begins to feel irresponsible. So start small. Do not try to transform your entire schedule. Create one piece of yutori, 2 minutes. When you finish a task, don't immediately open another one. Sit still for 2 minutes. No phone, no email, no planning. Just let the task end. Notice your breathing. Look around the room. Allow your mind to recognize that one thing is finished before another begins. The second practice is a 5-minute margin. Choose one transition in your day. Between waking up and work, between work and dinner, between arriving home and talking to your family, between dinner and sleep. Add 5 minutes. Do not fill those minutes with another task. They are not for catching up. They are transition space. You are giving your mind time to change gears. The third practice is to slow down one ordinary action. Choose something you already do every day. Drinking tea, eating breakfast, walking to the store, taking a shower, washing dishes. For 5 minutes, do only that. No phone, no podcast, no multitasking. Notice temperature, sound, movement, texture. Your goal is not mindfulness perfection. Your goal is simply to experience one activity without dividing your attention. And you may notice something surprising. The activity itself has not changed. Your relationship with it has. Tea tastes different when you are not answering a message. Food feels different when you are not watching a video. Walking feels different when you are not trying to arrive as quickly as possible. Even silence can begin to feel less threatening. This is how you rebuild your tolerance for slowness. Gradually, not dramatically. You also need to understand something important. Slowing down does not mean ignoring genuine responsibilities. If your workplace is overloaded, you may need a conversation with your manager. If your schedule is unrealistic, you may need to change it. If you are caring for someone, you may have obligations you cannot simply remove. Yutori is not an excuse to avoid responsibility. It is a reminder that responsibility without margin eventually becomes unsustainable. So look at your day and find one place where urgency is unnecessary. Maybe you answer messages instantly, even when they can wait. Maybe you schedule meetings back to back with no transition. Maybe you wake up and immediately consume information. Maybe you keep saying yes because you are afraid of disappointing people. Choose one place, create a little room, 5 minutes, then another. You are not trying to become a different person overnight. You are teaching your life a new rhythm, and eventually, you may notice that the day does not feel quite as hostile. The clock is still moving, work is still waiting, problems still exist. But you are no longer sprinting toward every single one. Go back to that morning. Your alarm rings. The old version of you reaches for the phone. The day begins before your feet touch the floor. But imagine doing something different. You sit up, you breathe, you look outside. You allow 5 quiet minutes before the world starts asking for something from you. Nothing extraordinary happens. You do not become instantly calm. Your responsibilities have not disappeared, but something important has changed. You have created space between waking up and reacting, and that space belongs to you. Maybe that is what you have been missing. Not more hours, not a better schedule, not another productivity system. Margin. A little room between one thing and the next. A little room between stimulus and response. A little room between work and rest. A little room between what happens and how quickly you react to it. That is the quiet lesson behind Utori. You do not need to move slowly through every moment. You need to stop rushing through moments that do not require speed, because when you rush constantly, you begin to experience life as a series of things to get through. Breakfast becomes something to finish. The commute becomes something to survive. Work becomes something to escape. The weekend becomes something to recover from. Even relaxation becomes another task to complete. But when you create space, ordinary moments become visible again. You notice the sunlight on the floor, the sound of rain, the taste of food, the expression on someone's face when they are telling you something important, the quiet after you close your laptop, the feeling of walking without needing to arrive immediately. These things were already there. You were simply moving too quickly to see them. And perhaps the greatest mistake is believing that a meaningful life must be packed. It doesn't. A meaningful life can contain empty space. It can contain pauses. It can contain afternoons where nothing important happens. It can contain slow meals, long walks, quiet mornings, unfinished lists, 5 minutes of doing absolutely nothing. You are not wasting time when you create space to live inside it. You are making the time you already have easier to feel. So tomorrow, choose one moment. Don't rush it. 5 minutes. Put the phone away. Let the transition happen. Let the silence exist. Let yourself arrive before you start running again. And then ask yourself one honest question. How much of your life are you rushing through simply because you have forgotten that you are allowed to slow down? If you feel like your life has been moving too fast, write one word in the comments. Slow. Because maybe you don't need to escape your life. Maybe you just need to stop running through it.